Hello and welcome back to my Tour Divide 2023 coverage. This is day 10. Let's have a little look at the map and see what's happening. So 10 days in, I mean, everyone is going to be on their knees by this point. I mean, it's hard enough dot watching, so just imagine when you've pedalled all the way through the United States with all the weather that's hit them as well. It's not been an easy edition of the Divide, that's for sure. So currently race time, the clock's saying 9 days, 18 hours, and we're at 1:15 a.m. local time. So everyone's basically starting to think about bunkering down for the night. Now our three leaders, they have now split up quite substantially. So Jens, he took a really long sleep the other night. So he dropped back quite a bit. He had about four and a bit hours sleep. Justinus and Ulrich got through to Silverthorne. Justinus only had 2 hours sleep. I believe he slept just behind the gas station in town there. There's a 24-hour station. So I guess that was a quick resupply, a quick nap. And it looks like he's tried to make a bit of a break on Ulrich. Ulrich slept 3.5 hours. Looks like he got a hotel room. So, I mean, at this stage in the race, it's who's got the legs, who's got the most fatigue, and who can keep going on. So Ulrich, it looks like there are lodges where Ulrich is. So he's at Sargent's. So there's a small cafe there, and I think they have little kind of wooden huts you can rent out to sleep in. So I'd imagine that he's managed to get there and get himself a bed. Justinus, this is just like a big open dirt track. I think there are a couple of trailheads here from what I remember, so that he might have found a pit toilet or something like that, or he might just be sleeping out. Who knows at this stage of the race? In my experience, when you're this far in, you don't really care where you sleep anymore. And certainly now they're getting much further south, the weather's not so much of a major issue in terms of like trying to keep it super warm. I may have just cursed it for them, having said that. You can still have some weather in New Mexico, as they found out in last year's Tour Divide. But it looks like, these two have made a break. So Ulrich is 1,820, call it 27 miles, and Justinus 1,844. So about 15 or so miles difference between the two at the moment. At this stage, well, that's an hour, 2 hours, like probably not even that. There's all to play for still. Either of these guys could take it, I think, or Jens could just have an absolute flyer. Just have to keep an eye on that and see how it develops. Further back, Joe Nation, Chris Burkhardt, they're still pushing on. We know that Joe's been sleeping quite a lot earlier on in the race. Is he now going to have a real push to try and get back to the front? I mean, it's not impossible. They're in this big flat basin area here. Again, we'll head on to Rider GPS and sort of dig into the route details a little bit more with some video shortly. So there's a fairly good chance he could reach Jens. He's probably 2-3 hours away. Might need to have a sleep at some point. I did hear there was quite strong headwinds here, and when I experienced it in the afternoon, there was a lot of wind in this second half of this little basin here after Hartsel. These guys could be playing a good card here, just getting through the night when the wind's a bit lower. Hopefully dropping into Salida for a big breakfast. After Salida, they got Marshall Pass. So Ulrich and basically Justinus and Ulrich have both got it's like a 3,500 meter pass between them and the rest of the field at the moment. Further back down the road, our kind of chasing group. So we've got Ezra, Stephen Laharic. They seem to be bouncing around each other now. Ezra slept. Stephen Laharic still going. I know Stephen. I've raced him in the Atlas Mountain race. He's super competitive. He'll want to get the very best result he can. So he's only a mile or so behind Ezra now. We'll see how far he pushes. Looks like those guys are just coming down off Boreas Pass. Or where are they? Boreas. Or just before Boreas. Maybe they'll push up and over. Yeah, that's the start of Boreas. That's the road section. I doubt they'll push over now, but you never know. Stephen's just in Breckenridge, so he might be able to find somewhere decent to stay tonight and then have an early start tomorrow. Further down, Martin, he's still there, chugging away. He's been a bit of a dark horse, actually, so he's creeping up the field still. Steve Halligan, we know about Steve. Is a veteran on this route. He looks like he's staying in Silverthorne again, getting a good quality sleep. He's had health issues at the start of the race. He had a really bad chest infection and tonsillitis, so he's gradually worked his way into it. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if, like we said in the last few days, if he pushes hard. And then we've got a couple of guys who haven't really featured in the top 10, but they're really coming strong. So Peter Craft and Justin Smith, they're up there too, and they all seem to have got themselves ahead of Lael. Now Lael had quite a big stop the other day in Steamboat Springs. She was outside the bike shop, so I can only assume, I don't know for sure, but I can only assume that her bike needed some serious work. We'll look at Ulrich's Instagram later and find out what work he got done, but it's quite substantial. So I think the conditions are really taking the toll on bikes at the moment. So I guess that's our second chase group there. These guys, well, anything can happen. Don't be deceived by the gap here, because these guys have got a pass to go up, but then they'll really close down again when they're flying down the hill the other side. So it's going to be interesting to see how that develops. Back down the field, so we've got a smattering of riders here, and then Katja in second place in the women's race, and she's doing a really strong ride. She's had a few issues with her bike, but it seems like she's really getting into the rhythm now. She's not that far behind Lael. Where's Lael at? So Lael is at mile 16.65. Just about 100 miles. So it's a big gap, but it's not impossible to close and overtake Lael if she had some major issues, which can happen. But she's looking comfortable in second position there. So just heading over those three passes that we discussed would have been yesterday. Links, Gore and Ute Pass. So she'll be hitting that series of climbs tomorrow. And then she'll be able to get some good resupply as she gets Silverthorn and Breckenridge. And maybe she might be able to get over Boreas as well. We'll see. Further back down, another little group here. So people are sort of grouping out now. You see further down the race, people are really kind of settling into their positions as such. And we've got a bit of excitement for third place in the women's race. So Hannah Simon, she's obviously sleeping at the moment, but Sasha Dahl has made a little jump and seems to have got ahead of her. Now, I did have some updates from Sasha, but technology's not working, so I can't play them. But essentially, she'd had a good, she'd had to replace her tyre and stuff in Pinedale and get some work done on her bike. Lost a bit of time, but she seems to be really making some progress now and catching up and looking to see if she can cement that third place. But yeah, still a long way to go, so it's going to be interesting, that little battle there. And not too far back, Alexandra Huchin on a single speed, and April, they are so Hannah's at 14, let's call it 14.70 rounding up, and these guys are at 14.50. So a 20 mile gap, which is nothing in Tour de Vie terms. A 2 hour stop and that gap is closed. The other big story as well, Gail Brown, what a flyer from Gail, British rider. I know she's got a lot of fans over in the UK. I've got some updates from her I'll cover shortly. But Gail she's really closing in on the guys ahead now. We'll find out why, but she's got ahead of Marie-Soleil Blas as well through the basin, and she's still riding. So she had a really bad chest infection at the start, but she's really looked after herself, had to sleep quite a bit, stopped quite a bit, took a bit of time out in Helena, I believe, like half a day or so. But yeah, she's had that extra rest, she's looked after herself, and now she's really coming good in the second half of the race. So it'd be interesting. It's not infeasible that she could certainly get in the top 5. If she has an absolute flyer, then she could be pushing for that final spot on the podium. So the women's race is really going to be quite interesting heading forward. First, before I go any further, I just have to say thank you to Holyfat for their support. Obviously, by this point, the nut butter bars and sachets and drinks. So yeah, they've really helped me to make this happen. So give them a little look if you're interested, and the link's below in the description. Right, let's do a little bit digging and see what's been going on. So Ulrich put a post up yesterday, so I think he's got someone doing his media for him. He's got a lot of images that were taken pre-race. It's quite an in-depth post, so I assume that someone is doing it for him. So arrived in Colorado, first stop Steamboat Springs. So went to the bike shop, changed the chain, the brake pads, bearings on the rear wheel, and repaired the major damage. And I don't know what damage that was, but it sounds like the bikes have really gone through the ringer. So yeah, the three-man group is excuse me. The three-man group has broken up. So as we know, Justinus took a bit of a flyer. We already discussed he slept 2 hours last night. Ulrich had a 3.5 hour sleep. And then he says, I'm riding more of a defensive style, which is not normally my goal or motivation. So normally if you've followed Ulrich in the races in the UK, in Europe, he just goes off the front and just smashes it and tries to win by as much as he physically can. But yeah, this time things are a little different. The Tour Divide has taught me the greatest respect for the route. I think anyone who's done Tour Divide realises this, that you're not in control of the divide. You can have all your plans, all your good intentions, but the divide is in control of you. The weather can smash you, the terrain can smash you, anything can happen. So fundamentally, you've just got to get down and finish it, and you've got to respect it. And there's a reason people keep going back over and over again, because it really is a magical thing. So yeah, unlike usual, where I like to get ahead of myself, I now have the feeling that I should keep $1 in my pocket. You never know what's going to come now that I'm heading for the really high mountains. So yeah, sounds like Ulrich's not trying to smash himself. He's just trying to keep a little bit on the defensive. Let's see how that plays out. Has Justinus made his move? Who knows? And Ulrich's got the skeleton tyre on the front. Be interesting to. I did my bike checks the other day. I'll put the link down. But I was just wondering how these tyres would hold up. Still looks like he's got a little bit of tread there on the front. So yeah, I wonder how the rear's going, because certainly the next part of the race can really smash tyres. But yeah, the bikes have been, well, look at them, just absolutely caked. And yeah, these were shots before. Beautiful. Colorado is a beautiful place. So yeah, so that is Ulrich. So he looks like he's going fairly steady. I don't think we've seen the last of Ulrich yet. Like I said, it sounds like he's playing a defensive role, and he's only 20 miles behind, which is not much. And that's on a fast section too. So when they hit the hills, that gap is going to close up again. Let's have a little look and see what is coming up for them. So head back over to Ride with GPS and Sarah Swallow's excellent route guide. There are all the points of interest and stuff on here, so if you're ever going to ride it, you've got everything you should need to know on here. You may notice they are getting fewer and far between as you get further south here. So you've got to really start thinking about resupply. And there's kind of some set places that you really need to hit. And there are a few little curveballs as well further down into New Mexico. So yesterday we showed you Breyers Pass up out of Breckenridge, and then you head down into this kind of deserty area. It's like a mini basin almost. You can see from the profile, I've got the entire route. There are segments available if you need more detail. So this little mini basin down here, and that's kind of that would have been where they were riding yesterday. So you can see it's kind of just rolling, mainly dirt roads. There's Hartzell in the middle, which is there's a little cafe there. It's basically like not a truck stop, but like a roadside cafe. And yeah, I've got some videos of that. Winds can be an issue. It seems to pick up a bit in the afternoon. Now I don't know if that's a pattern or if that's just my experience, but yeah, this is what it looks like. So you're just riding along. Oops, excuse me, while my laptop catches up with us. But you can see in the background the mountains, and I just remember going through this in 2019 and just being mesmerised by it. I live in the flattest part of the UK, and then suddenly you're in this like 2,000 metre plateau with mountains just towering above you, and it's really is quite incredible. Just dirt roads, fairly easy rolling, but yeah, you're quite exposed to the wind there, so it can be a little bit of a drag, and it is starting to get warmer as you're getting further south. So let's get rid of that. So you get through the basin, the little mini basin. I don't actually know what it's called. If anyone knows, just let me know in the comments. My geography on that area is not fantastic. And then you drop down into Salida. There's Hartzell. And then you drop down into Salida. Now it's a really cool town actually. I just got, when you go in a place and you get a good vibe about it. So Salida seemed like a really cool town. 2019 I ended up I rode solo most of that day. Lucas Ratcliffe caught me on the descent into Toledo, and then we found Kai. I can't remember Kai's surname, but hi Kai if you're watching. And we all ended up getting a pizza together, and it was getting late in the day, so we took an early night. We shared a hotel room, and then we set off really early, like probably 3 a.m, to take on Marshall Pass, which is this wiggly line here. Now Marshall Pass, one of the higher passes on the route. I think is it the second highest or third highest pass? Not quite as high as Boreas, but it's a really nice climb. Again, it's fairly steady going. The climbs in Colorado, they're not viciously steep on the whole. You can just sort of plod away on them if you're on a single speed. It's kind of that perfect gradient. So we got there as the sun was rising. Just incredible. By this point, you're just having incredible moments every single day on the divide. And we'll talk about coming back to reality maybe in a few days' time, but it's kind of hard sometimes to finish the divide because it gets it's so cool. But top of Marshall Pass, that's Kai there, and Lucas is there as well somewhere. But yeah, on top of the world before breakfast, it's a pretty amazing feeling, and it just becomes normal when you're on the Tour Divide. And I love this section of the divide. I was really getting into it by this point. When I started, I was a bit intimidated by the whole thing, and it affected my mental game somewhat. But by this point, after I holed up at Brush Mountain Lodge, I just got my head in the game. Absolutely loved it. And like I said, there's a reason people keep going back. And sitting here talking about it is not doing me any favours for wanting to go back again. So we saw that Ulrich had stopped in Sargent's. Now there is a little cafe in Sargent's, and we all stopped there for breakfast in 2019. I've got a little bit of a video of the inside just to show you what's going on there. So Lucas and Kai, there's a little shop in there, so you can get all your standard resupplies. By this point on the Tour Divide, you're pretty much eating burritos. You can get frozen burritos or the fresher ones. I say fresh. They're you don't get much fresh food in these kind of stores. But what I'd do is I'd get a few frozen burritos, put them in my back pockets, and then they'd warm up through the day. So by the time you came to eat it, it'd be a nice warm burrito. And then, burritos are also quite compact, so you can get them in frame packs, in pockets. It's quite convenient. And by this point, you're just eating whatever you can get your hands on. See, Lucozade, orange juice, just getting in those calories. Your body's just absolutely craving calories by this point. You're into your reserves, and you're really kind of, you're really pushing the limits of your endurance. So I suspect Ulrich has stayed there. I believe there's some lodges, as I said earlier. And then you're on this little section of road or highway before you head off into the wilds again. And this is where I think Justinus is currently camping out. So if we find a GoPro, from then, and it's just a wide area, dirt roads, fairly fast rolling, fast rolling surface, kind of rolling climbs, a few little buildings. Maybe like Justinus is staying somewhere like that. Pure speculation, but yeah, there's a few options. Or by this point, it is getting warmer, so you could just be, sleeping outside and camping. There was a few comments actually. A couple of people said about, the three leaders riding together, do you think it's in the spirit of the Tour Divide? Well, to be honest, I think, I don't think maybe it's a little bit of benefit mentally, but by this point in the race, certainly, you're not really riding together. You can only ride your pace. So you saw I was with Kai and Lucas there. And then that last video, when we were going across the, those rolling roads, there's just like we left together, and you can see one of them in a distance there. You just end up riding 2 or 3 minutes apart the whole time. You can only do what you can do at this stage. You're not really drafting or anything like that, and then you always end up bumping into each other at the next cafe. So I don't think that people are really riding together. We're interpreting the dots, so it's hard to really tell. So that is the route and what they're looking at for now. There are just a couple of little other updates I will fill you in at. So we heard from Gail actually. I'll show you the video I've got from Gail. So she's really made a storming comeback after illness. She's definitely on a high going through the basin.
Wow, I'm so lucky. Thank you, weather gods.
So yeah, it can go one of two ways on the Tour Divide. Gail's had it pretty good there, but we know what happened to everyone else. I also do have a little audio message from her, so it'd be interesting to hear. You know, she's really lucked out with the weather here. So let's have a listen. So yeah, so that is from Gail just before I actually started recording this. So let's have a little look, see where Gail is. We already discussed that she's really flying, Steamboat, really flying. So yeah, she was on about the motel, would have been in Wamsutter. I know that because there's absolutely nothing else around her apart from Wamsutter. So she's still moving by the looks of it. And I imagine she's going to try and get across here somewhere. I slept up here when I did it, crossed that highway. Gets a little bit hilly there. So yeah, good on Gail. And yeah, she's really lucked out with the weather there. Also, I mean, the other side of things is, so Steve Whittaker, he's another British rider. So I've just got a bit of an update from, or been told some information about him. So he's in Atlantic City, and he says, so just bearing in mind, he's not that far behind Gail in the grand scheme of things, the other side of the basin. So the heavens has just opened as I've arrived, so it doesn't bode well for the basin tomorrow. There's an awful headwind coming off Union Pass to get into Pinedale. Nearly stayed in Pinedale, but pushed on and had a decent wind to get to Atlantic City. The highs are high and the lows are low. So thank God the rain's held off, but at least the skies have been brewing all day. So yeah, it sounds like Gail might fit that sweet spot through the basin. Are these riders around here going to get smashed by the rain and the mud? We'll try and find out tomorrow. So yeah, it's you're never in control at the Tour Divide, that's for sure. So that's it for today's update. Day 11 tomorrow. Are the leaders going to reach New Mexico? We'll have to find out. So yeah, see you tomorrow for tomorrow's update. And yeah, thanks for watching. Give us a like and a subscribe. Any questions, put them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. See you tomorrow.